What is going on, everyone? Matt here, bringing you guys a recap for the NES Season 4 draft for your Detroit Darkrais. This is now our 5th season in the league, including the test season. And for a quick recap of the previous season, we had finished first in the league with 9-3 with about a plus 23 differential, but had an unfortunate exit from the playoffs early on. So we looked to rebound from that loss and continue the success into Season 4. So, sort of the team I built from this draft sort of builds off of a defensive core I had in last season, and I thought it was very strong. I didn't get to use it as much, so I felt like if I can continue it into this season and get some new pieces to build around it, then I feel like we could be in a very good spot. So I'll start with the very first pick, which was my franchise, Porygon 2. Porygon 2 has been with the team for 5 seasons now, all the way back to the test season. From things like just drafting it in franchise picks, we've had it every single year, every single season, and it has been a staple in this team. With the Eviolite, its defenses are ridiculous, and with the Recover, Toxic, so Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, very good coverage, Tri-Attack can be good, Download, Trace. It's just all around a very strong Pokemon in the singles format, league format, and so I just had to keep it around. It's kind of a part of that defensive core I was going for, so I needed to keep it around. In the first round of the draft, I had picked up Taxa Pecks. Now, Taxa Pecks was a Pokemon I had drafted last season, and it was a very strong member of my team. I only did bring it for half the season, but I felt like towards the end of the season, when I used it more, my team was doing very well, and it was performing very well itself. I think it did about 5 and 4 in about the kill-death ratio, but as a defensive mom, that doesn't matter as much. But that number is still pretty impressive to me for the 6 weeks it was brought. So I wanted to bring it back. It helps covers that fighting weakness of Porygon, and it has a very high defense, so usually that close combat will always be nullified. And then going into the third pick, I picked up Cresselia. Now, I've never used Cresselia before, but I felt like it would be a very good option to help support Taxa Pecks and Porygon 2. With the ability Levitate, it'll be able to avoid ground type attacks that Taxa Pecks would be weak to, and then it also covers as a psychic option against Taxa Pecks. So since it is psychic type, it does resist psychic moves for Taxa Pecks, and even fighting moves. It can be another fighting coverage for Porygon 2, eating up that very well. And it has a very high HP, very high defense and special defense, so I can sort of alternate which defensive scheme I want to run on it, depending on the week and the opponent, and how I need to support the other tanks through it. So the next pick, Mega Sableye. At this point in the draft, I was looking for a dark type. I had my eyes on Mandibuzz as a potential candidate, another ground immunity, and then also Taxa Pecks would be able to help cover with like the ice weakness, but then I'd be kind of open to the electric weakness between Taxa Pecks and Mandibuzz, but the special bulk of Cresselia and Porygon 2 would help that out. But instead, I decided to go with Mega Sableye to also help with some points in terms of free agency later on in the draft, because then otherwise I'd be clogging myself up with a bunch of tier 2s, and I didn't exactly want that at the moment, so I decided to go with Sableye, who is a Dark and Ghost. So Dark type is more neutral, but I can't get something like Knockoff because I'm holding a Mega Stone. But otherwise, Mega Sableye is probably one of my favorite Megas, definitely. I haven't used it in League format yet, but the high defenses and magic bounce, opponents won't be able to status it, won't be able to set up like rocks or something and be able to bounce that back. And then the high defenses, I can kind of set it to what I needed to do that week with the either like Recover, Will-O-Wisp, Calm Mind. I can do a lot of things with it. And so it's also just another way to help, support Cresselia on more of its dark and ghost weakness. And obviously it's only weak to fairy, so then obviously Taxa Pecks can help cover with that, or just, Porygon 2 or Cresselia with their own natural bulk. So at this point in the draft, I have basically 4 stall tanks on my team, and I need to switch up to some offense. The 4 rounds in now, a lot of the really good offensive presence is gone, but I decided to go with Buzzwall, a tier 1 offensive threat. He's got about a 139 in attack, 139 in defense, which is very bulky, so that will be very good in just taking some hits, but he has about a base 78 speed, I believe. I'd have to check on that, but he can get some decent outspeeds with Choice Scarf. Like, I had used him in my very first OU team of the 7th generation, and he did very good work. and so I'm expecting, mix it up this season with some choice scarves, choice bands, assault vest, maybe some Z moves to really break through any walls of theirs. So Buzzwall was just a very bulky, very hard hitting Ultra Beast, and obviously with the Beast Boost that might be able to help me roll some matches and get some good streaks going. So then I decided in my next pick to go with a special threat, and I decided to keep it in tier 1. I didn't like anything kind of below there at the moment. I needed something that was probably going to guarantee me maybe like 8 to 10 kills at least this season, and so I went with Blacephalon. Blacephalon, definitely one of my favorite Ultra Beasts when introduced, in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It has a Ghost and Fire typing, which is very versatile, covers for a lot of Pokemon, not too many resists there. And with about a 107 base speed, it can get a lot of those good outspeeds and like some other types below it. It's very kind of cluttered in that area, but I think it'll be able to get the picks where it needs to. And if I can get rolling with a good Shadow Ball or Z Sunny Day set, Choice Scarf, I think it'll do wonders for my team. And it's got like a very massive special attack set, like 151, I believe, somewhere around there. So I can run it timid, get that max speed, and also hit very hard with some special moves. So then the next Pokemon I went with, some more offense. This is a tier 4 pick, Zoroark. So this was kind of almost on the spot pick when I saw it. It was my turn, I kind of saw it, and I felt it could be a really good option, a dark type. It has a 105 base speed, so it's not going to outspeed, the fastest in this game, but it does get some pretty good outspeeds and probably a lot of threats to my team, I could say. I mean, a lot of threats to itself, but with a 120 special attack and a pretty good coverage, I can use it for just about anything. Now, I wanted to be able to use the illusion ability, probably combine it with the works of my tanks, because something like Taxa Pecks, weak to that psychic, I might be able to bait out something there, or just use my tanks in general to bait out different Pokemon, or make my opponent make the wrong move, maybe go for more of a setup, because my team, my tanks are very stall heavy, and so they have to set up to get going or use some really weak moves. So then all of a sudden, oh wait, Taxa Pecks just hit me with a Dark Pulse, big damage, and that will help me sweep through. I know it's done pretty well in the past on other teams. I've never used it before, so it'll be more of a good experiment for me, and I hope to use it very well this season. So the next Pokemon I picked was Grandal. At this point in the draft, I had to make 3 5-tier picks and 1 3-tier pick. So to begin my tier 5 picks, I went with Grandal. I've had Grandal on my team in Season 2, and it was very good. I chose it because it was an Intimidator. I didn't have any of my teams. Last season, I had 2 or 3 Intimidators, which was very helpful, and I figured if Grandal was probably my best Intimidator option, I was going to take it. I know earlier in the draft I wanted to pick up Crocodile, but unfortunately that went pretty early, kind of during when my pre-planning was going on, so that wasn't a possibility. But Grandal, a fairy type, it's very good defensive. It's got like a very high HP, a relatively decent defense, but obviously paired with the Intimidate is very good, and like a 120 base attack, which is very, very good. So it'll be able to pack back a punch against some of those offensive threats that I might face. And now the next pick, I went with Raichu. So I was actually kind of didn't know what to do with my next tier 5 pick, but I just saw Raichu kind of out of the corner of my eye at the last second. I was kind of surprised it had not gone yet, but Raichu with the Lightning Rod ability will be a good, electric immunity for things like Taxa Pecks, and it'll get access to things like Surf, Thunderbolt, Nasty Plot, Fake Out, Encore. So it can run some pretty good tech in the middle, and then also hit pretty hard. I didn't have a whole lot of water offense at this point, so something like Surf was very enticing to take it for. So I went with Raichu, and it's probably my own main electric attacker, and sometimes electric can also be really good if the team doesn't really have that ground type. Then electric type can really roll. Obviously Raichu isn't going to like own games, like take over games, but it can definitely probably fill in some spots where I might need that electric attacker or something fast with a good hit. So then my last tier 5 pick, I went with Steelix. Here I just wanted a defensive mon, definitely a steel type. I felt like a steel type was probably needed for my team. It could also do things like set rocks for me, probably hit hard with a heavy slam or gyro ball. If I need to go a little bit more offensive, maybe on the steel side. Earthquake is always really good. So I felt like Steelix would just be sort of a good defensive pick, because I hadn't picked anything real defensive for a while, aside from the Grandal. But it was just I felt like I needed a steel type, because a lot of other teams picked steel types in the first round, and I felt steel was going to be really big this year. So definitely needed at least one for my team, and I feel like Steelix was a really good pick, especially for tier 5 late draft. Now my final pick of the draft, I went with Bruxish. So initially, I wanted, going towards the end of the draft, I 100% wanted like a dedicated water type attacker. Now I was thinking maybe I could use Barbaracle, a tier 5 water type, but I kind of just, I wasn't focusing on that Barbaracle. I was going to take a Barbaracle if Bruxish was taken before my final round, but there were some other tier 5s I also wanted to take as well, so I took the tier 5s. I prioritized a little bit higher and kind of held Bruxish off on the back burner until my final round, which was a tier 3 pick. And so when it got there, I just figured, okay, I'll take the Bruxish. It's got a pretty decent speed at 92. I wish it could be faster, but I feel like against maybe some of the more slower Pokemon, it definitely shines against. And then with the strong jaw ability, it hits hard, 1.5 times on like the bite move. So things like Psychic Fangs, which is, I guess it was kind of a signature of it. I think other mons have it, but it was kind of introduced with Bruxish. It can really hit hard. It gets Liquidation now, I believe, in this, like at the Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon Tutors, which is 5 points above Waterfall in damage, and then things like just Crunch are always good. Aqua Jet priority is always really nice. So I just wanted a strong water type attacker in my last pick, and I think Bruxish really filled that slot. So that is my team for the Season 4 draft. I went with definitely at first a very bulky team, then I kind of picked out some very strong offensive threats throughout the thing, and then lastly I just kind of rounded out the team with some solid tier 5s. I really like what I went through with this draft, and I feel like if I can just find the right pieces every week for my team, then I will definitely be able to take a top spot in this league and hopefully make a good push in the playoffs. This season. We've kind of struggled in the postseason before, but this season I'm definitely looking to build upon what we did last season and go further this time. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I will be back with more of postcoms soon. I'm getting back into it, and so I hope it'll be all good. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.